Hello, and if you are on my channel, the Erin Moffat channel, welcome to my regular viewers. But if you are watching from Kevon's channel, thank you for letting me introduce this video that is officially on his channel because we are co-opting this situation, this relationship. So I guess welcome me and welcome you, Kevon. Hello.
Howdy do.
How are
Howdy
you
do.
tonight?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great.
Good.
Um, just really excited to do this. Like we've been kind of like queuing this up for a little while. So, I figured like let's, be grandiose about it and get it on camera.
Which I think we're both good at because we've done this fireside chat kind of stuff before, but this is you asking me questions,
Yeah.
whereas it's kind of been the other way around. So I'm ready for question number one.
Yeah. So essentially I have them written down. So
That's a great way to do things.
if it seems scripted, it's because
It
it
should
is.
be.
But pretty much, can you give us like a 3 to 5 minute monologue on like your uh, personal like journey with crypto and essentially what it is, the current venture that you've introduced to me. Kind of just get into the specifics a little bit there.
Yes. Well, just to kind of go back a little bit in time, I have been trying to find a way to be home with my children because I'm a widow of two girls, as you know, but your listeners won't know that. And I became widowed when they were very young. They were 9 months and 2 years old. So I worked in the medical industry as a PA, and that's kind of like a doctor for anyone who doesn't know. I was basically the provider. I was the one that patients saw. I wrote the prescriptions, I did the diagnoses, things like that. And these were 12 to 14-hour shifts. So while that worked while I was married, and my husband would stay home with the girls, once that ended, it kind of obviously turned my life upside down. And I moved home and I was thinking, I can't afford to put them in, when they were little like that, daycare is outrageously expensive. And I didn't know that I wanted to be in the medical field anymore, and it just blows up your world, just to say the least. So I tried to come up with ways to be home with my children, and I did a number of multi-level marketing, network marketing types of things to try to be home, but a lot of them are really hard to earn any income with. So I continued to try to persevere in that realm, and I got to a point where I was able to understand that I need to live within my means, even under my means. And that was the biggest thing. I would say to people, the biggest thing is learning to live within and or even under your means instead of outside of it. And most of us live outside of our means. We've kind of been brought up to do that. We've been brought up to think that credit cards are okay, debt is okay, you can't take it with you when you die. That would be the first thing I learned was how to manage my income so that I could live in a way that if I didn't have a lot of dollars, it was still functional and it was still good. And I found ways to make things fun for us. Like, going out to dinner is a big deal still to my children. That's a really big deal to be able to go out to dinner because we just don't do it that often. So learning how to do that was the first thing. And then I started to understand, what is the dollar? What is money? What is currency? What is all of this? What is inflation? And I didn't know these things previous to 2017 until I got into the precious metals business, which you're familiar with. But I didn't know these things. And I'm so glad that you, as a young person, know these things because I was, well, let's see, it was 5 years ago now, I guess. I'm 42, so I'd have been 37. The first time I ever understood what money was, what the dollar was, and what inflation was. And learning that also blew my world up. And it was amazing to understand how I could increase my purchasing power with gold and silver, with precious metals. And I know you said 3 to 5 minutes, so I'll try to make this quick. But what that led me ultimately into saying, okay, what else can increase our purchasing power that isn't the dollar? And that's cryptocurrency. And a lot of people have been getting into it. It's been really lucrative, but one of my things that I don't like is gambling. So I didn't want to get into things like Bitcoin and some of these other uh, coins, which I'm not saying don't do that, but
Mhm.
I'm saying I didn't want to. So what I finally found, ultimately, very recently in the last 4 months, was a stable coin where the business is still somewhat like a stay-at-home business where you could call it network marketing, but it kind of isn't because there's no monthly requirement and you just buy in and you can just sit on the coin or you can tell your friends. But the company is very generous and they're very generous in how they explain what cryptocurrency is. They're very generous in how they pay out. if you're interested in earning income while you wait for the coin, but it's also stable and it doesn't go up and down like a market asset. So that's how I found it, because it's all started with learning the truth about money, getting into precious metals, and finally ultimately accepting that cryptocurrency is another form of currency that we should utilize.
Right. Thank you for that rundown. And what I've been learning about crypto, I mean, I got the basic, fundamentals, um, but I essentially I found the distinguished difference between, I guess, the dollar and crypto. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. dollar right now with the fiat system is not it's not backed by anything. Um,
Right.
and essentially, it's a form of consensus. Like we have faith in these green pieces of paper. But then with crypto, there's like this mining process, and it took me a while to really wrap my head around it, But essentially, it's just, taking this thing and saying, "Hey, guys, $7." You know what I mean? And everyone just kind of like buys it. Oh, $7 sounds good to me, and then it just continues to grow with, just to kind of like dumb it down. But for me, for a while, I didn't want to be the person who was just like, what, damn, I wish I got into it sooner, like everyone did with essentially with Bitcoin and with the whole Dogecoin situation. We had
Mm-hmm.
a few bucks on that, which was kind of like an eye opener. Which there's a lot of stigmas attached to these innovations. With technology, right? In particularly when it comes to currency, like there's a level of hysteria there too.
Yeah.
People like you can use that for like all types of laundering and trafficking, but people do that with the green piece of paper anyway. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you gonna do? Just not use money? So what my next question that you kind of started to answer that already is what do you want? What do you think people should know at the very least about money? Because you said that was the understand as you began to understand it, that transformed it for you, and I know that for a lot of people, when they start to understand money, that's when things start to change. Like for myself as well.
Right. So the difference between money and currency is a store of value. So money has a store of value. Fiat currency does not. Now you can use money as currency, but money itself means it has a store of value. So gold and silver have the store of value because of the human effort it takes to mine it from the ground and to refine it into the perfection that it becomes as coins. And today we have 0.999 on silver, 0.999 on some gold, but even just 0.9016 or something like that is above 90% for most coins. That
Right.
takes that takes a lot. If people want to look up the effort it takes to get gold and silver out of the ground and to refine it down to its pure element that it is into the coins and rounds that we have, you would say that's the value. The value is how much work do I have to do for this thing, which you could put into many things. You could say, how much work do I have to put in to this cornfield to sell you corn, and what am I willing to trade for it? How much work do I have to put into this clothing that I'm making, and what am I willing to trade for it? And that is a free market right there. That's what we understand as free trade, free market, because then we actually see our full potential and our ability to come together and work for something and then trade it for an equal value. That's the value. We have a dollar that's not backed by anything, which used to be backed by gold until 1971 when Richard Nixon said, I'm going to stop backing the dollar with gold because we were printing too much currency, which was the dollar, and countries said we want our gold. If we're going to take dollars instead of gold, well, we're seeing that you're printing a lot of dollars, so we actually want our gold. And Nixon said, nope, I'm going to stop that,
Right.
and that created our initial inflation. But if you really want to go back, it was 1913 when the Federal Reserve was created in the first place that started the inflation of the dollar, and we could get into that easily and take a lot of time. But all we need to know is that a private group of men got together. They were rich bankers, and they created the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor does it reserve anything.
Anything. Exactly.
So so once we didn't have a backing to the dollar, inflation became pretty rampant and has increased ever since. And now the dollar is worth about 2 cents of its original value, which was one silver dollar. When you look at gold and silver, it could always buy the same thing. So like if you look 200 years or 100 years back, even a nice suit, a nice gun, or a house in gold and silver could buy that same nice suit and gun and house today. In fact, you could actually get a little bit nicer house today than what you could have back then in the same amount, not because of technology, but because of it's actually increased in purchasing power. So
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, is that money? That's the question that people have. Does it have any backing? Well, it kind of does because the technology for blockchain is something that can't be easily hacked. And in
Mhm.
fact, almost impossible. I would say really, really. I've not seen any evidence that it's ever been hacked. But it's a one track negotiation from person one to person two. It cannot go back in time, and it only goes along one path along these different blocks. The difference with the internet normally is when you type up an email and you send that email out, it's decrypted into multiple pathways, right? So that anyone intercepting it on the way to the other person can't read what you've written in your email until it gets encrypted back into the email that the person accepts it on. The problem with that is that there are powers that be that have what's called an encryption key. And that key will unlock any email, any computer, any phone, anything on the World Wide Web. Blockchain does not work within the rules of the World Wide Web, and that's why that technology can't be broken into so easily. That's why it's decentralized, unlike banks, and that's why banks don't like it, and governments don't like it, and some countries even have banned cryptocurrency altogether. I hope that answers your question. I could go
Oh yeah,
further,
no,
but
no, no,
I
no,
think
no.
that's kind
Yeah,
of the
no, for sure.
basics.
No, that's some really juicy information, and it's important for us to have these conversations now. I mean, might as well. This is where we're headed. The crypto space, like you said, it gives us the one word that the phrase, the term that you use is purchasing power. And when we talk about true freedom, that's essentially what it comes down to. I had a friend, he
Hmm.
posted on his page, he said, you know, this might sound cliche or really like obvious, but me having purchasing power, the power to do what the hell I want and when I want, like that's really why I want to do this. Like I'm able to, spoil my wife or my fiance or whatever and X, Y, and Z. And it's the little things, right? The things that we tend to take for granted, the things that we would be doing if we had the purchasing power, if we had,
Right.
that financial freedom. And I think again, this is a given. Like the more happy people that we have around, the better the world is. Um, I realized that investing, generally taking a risk in general, that takes a certain mindset. Welcoming an abundant lifestyle or a life in general takes a certain lifestyle. What do you personally tell someone who says, I just want to be free immediately? Like, what's the first mental and practical steps, respectively, in your view?
Being free immediately would be to surrender, I think, your will to a higher power, which to me is Lord God Jesus Christ. I say that because there is freedom in knowing that you are not capable of controlling everything. You're not capable of controlling every situation that happens in your life. You're just not capable of making everything work in your way. And I have had control issues in the past, and so that's why I speak that first and foremost because I've really tried to control every path and step and motion. I see myself still doing it with my children. Oh, you're not flying that kite just right. Just let me do it. I have to let them do it and make mistakes and get the kite strings mixed up with each other and not freak out. But it's a control thing.
Yeah.
So surrendering our will sometimes is the first best step, and then kind of getting into the understanding that we can actually have better control when we surrender our will. So when you say if somebody said I want to get that freedom now, usually I would have said gold and silver, but we've seen a really slow increase in these products and these dollars and these monies and these currencies. And so as I watch gold and silver, I get a little tired. I'm thinking in the recent silver squeeze, it only shot up to $30 an ounce, but really what it did is it increased our premiums. So whereas silver would say, let's say silver was $30 an ounce that day for spot on the New York Stock Exchange, well, you were paying 40 because now it was a $10 premium where it
Mhm.
used to be only $2. Absolutely unreal. Very frustrating for those of us that say this should be probably at the minimum $900 to $1,000 an ounce for silver, and gold should be 10,000 or more. But we're not seeing that. It's not happening. It's being held down, and we can't do anything about it. So what do? We surrender our control. But if
Mm.
you can do something like crypto, it is currently right now fast increase in purchasing power. Very, very fast. In the last 4 months, I've watched my dollars turn into an exorbitant amount of more dollars just by getting involved in this company called World Crypto Life with the IMC crypto coin that you and I are now just delving into, because, well, one, it's a stable coin, but the company is generous in its compensation for just sharing. So I have gone from a few $100s in the first couple of months to thousands of dollars in the last 2 months, just in 4 months. Talk about getting freedom right away. Now you could
Yeah.
say, well, what if this business blows up in a year? Then I'm going to take advantage of it for the next year because they're letting, I'm not lying, I'm not cheating, I'm not stealing.
Yeah.
I'm taking full honest advantage of a company that wants us to,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in,
Exactly.
increasing our purchasing power much faster than silver and gold. And we're still going to tell people hold tangible silver and gold. You'd be a fool not to. But in
Yeah.
the meantime, if the grid goes down, what if the grid goes down? What if we lose all our electricity? Da, 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 so many things, but it's not happening yet. Until
Yeah.
those things happen, let's take advantage, right?
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that. There's been a whole lot of stir craziness, just to backtrack a little bit, as far as like the precious metal space. And I do feel it coming, that big boom, honestly. But, you know, like you said, like if we're gonna evaluate now, right? Like what right now, what's going on, and with the whole Doge, burst and everything, I think that that's positive indication. I think it's kind of like a red pill for us to realize, like, whether we like it or love it or hate it or we're indifferent, like, I mean, this is essentially where we're headed, and if you're honest, if you use it as like a gun, right? You use it honestly, you can't feel guilty about it. There's no harm in that,
Hmm.
and there's so many people finding prosperity, using this tool, investing in general, and I think that's amazing, amazing, and it's sad that they don't teach us that in school.
Yeah, I
Um,
get that. They'll
but
never teach you that in school.
yeah, and so with that, with the explosion of crypto, where do you see, how do you think the world will transform, particularly within the decade? With the explosion of crypto and blockchain and everything like that.
It's a that's a super speculative question. But
Yeah,
if
no,
if
I
I
know.
looked at if I looked at movies and TV shows, I think Mr. Robot's a good indication. If you've ever watched it, if not, it's a 4 season show. It's not that long. A little bit stressful. I'm not sure I'm recommending it to people, but what it does show is that there's an intention for the powers that be to cause destruction, whether we like it or not, doesn't matter because they don't care about us, but to cause destruction so that they can rise out of that their own agenda. And I think one of those will be a cryptocurrency. And I think that that's why people are afraid of it, because they see that. There are a lot of people like you and me that see that the government would create a cryptocurrency. And they would say, well, that means all cryptocurrency is bad.
Yeah.
And so it's a battle, because we have to try to say, well, they don't like our cryptocurrency because they don't control it. They want the cryptocurrency that they control. So that's why they'll create one, whether they knew all along, right? We could really get into a rabbit hole, whether they knew all along that cryptocurrency was coming or whether they didn't. They're going to create one that we'll all have to use if we want to get into our bank account. So, for instance, if you have direct deposit, you will have to use their crypto if you want to get to your currency for your W 2 job. And people don't think that's the case, but it is going to be the case. So, I bring up Mr. Robot because that's exactly what happened in that movie. They had these, probably what would be more left leaning uh, activists that created a crash of the whole internet, and therefore it created a crash of all bank systems, debit, cash, all that stuff, and cash became obsolete. And they came up with what was called the e-coin or something like that, and they had a QR code and everything, and you used it everywhere you went, and instead of cash became obsolete.
When did this
And
come out? What?
gosh, could have been 2014, 2015, I think. But I watched it because I was told that there was a lot of symbolism and
Mm.
truth to it. And like I said, it's a little stressful because the main character, of course, has MK Ultra type issues,
Okay.
and which they don't allude to it being MK Ultra, but you could see that knowing what MK Ultra type
Right,
stuff is,
right.
you could see the main character very much was traumatized, had multiple personalities, so was traumatized as a child. Turns out to be an abuse thing. So very, very, very clear what the main character was going through, and then to have them, he was this amazing hacker, and he hacks this whole system, and he crashes the whole system, and ultimately, that was their plan all along,
Mhm.
so that they could introduce their new coin and have this global system that we know that they're trying to create. So
Right,
I see that as being a truth for our future. But does
right.
that mean we're all going to be stuck under it? Well, that maybe someday, but we don't know when.
Yeah, or the methods, how, like, how, you know what I mean, like how uh covert, or maybe, like,
Right.
contrary to that it would be, you know what I mean, like it's just very interesting. It just seems so too good to be true, but then also it's just like so vulnerable, right? Like
Yeah.
on paper, like when you just read it out, like okay, this seems very like, but then at the same time, like there's the level of security that as long as we the people, seize it and sustain it and maintain it, and maintain oversight over it, then it can be truly empowering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's an opportunity for us to really flex our unity muscles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And and,
Yes.
uh, and sovereignty muscles, because this, I can honestly see this really. I mean, overnight changing. I mean, not literally overnight, but billions of lives within a decade. Within half of a decade, honestly, quite frankly.
I agree. I think it'll be less time. And I think you made a great point. Coming together. One of the biggest problems we have right now is that coming together, whether we agree spiritually or religiously, well, or politically, or even racially. I mean, all
Right.
these questions and concerns that are being forced. In fact, I went to the doctor recently and I said, I'm so glad I'm not in the medical field anymore because in the medical field, there's such a tightly knit bond in the medical field. If you ask any medic, if you've ever met a paramedic, ask them how close they are to the other medics. It is so tight, and nurses and everything. And this nurse said, "Yeah, I've never seen it so divided in my whole life." So every community is so divided right now, whether it's masks or whether it's vaccines or whether it's racially or whether it's politically. It's we are not, and we're you and I are not saying let's unite for a one world unity because we know that that's a globalism idea. What we're saying is let's unite and help each other. And this can help people. This, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's gold and silver, whether it's just understanding the dollar, I have always said I will help people answer those questions whether they want to get into a business with me or not. I don't need you to get into my business with me for me to want to give you that information because somebody did that for me. And it's just the right thing to do to give somebody else the information and pass along, which is why we started YouTube channels, right? That's why we started doing what we're doing, because we want to give those with ears to hear and eyes to see the information that they want. It's not about making money. We're not going to buy a yacht. We're not going to go sail the seas. We're not going to stay in the finest hotels and eat at the finest restaurants. It's never been your and my desire. Our desire is how can I take what I'm doing and give it to somebody else? When you say,
Yeah, yeah. Essentially, I would say I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and I was like, if I was the last person in the world with things, with material things, I'd probably be fine with that. And I mean, she kind of like scoffed at it, but essentially, when I was younger, I thought that's how everyone felt. Like, like everyone in the world has everything, and just abundance, and love and joy and all that sweet stuff. But I've learned, the reality, and I don't necessarily blame individuals, but there's a level of selfishness that eclipse, the to me clear possibility for, utopia. And it's funny because I just essentially shot down someone's like monologue about like this utopian, society where grasp. But it's, again, it goes back to that unity thing, right? Like, first we have to wake the hell up, see the system's rigged, see it for what it is, see who the true enemy is, right? And then band together and see and recognize, innovate find new systems, find, new ways to get through this, hell on earth. Once people start to realize, like, not just on the financial side what they've been doing, right? But like, the deep, dark, ugly stuff that I don't necessarily want to say on my young YouTube channel, right? Um,
Right.
but um, yeah, I'm kind of, you know, looping all over the place now, but I guess bottom line, I'm really excited about how the young generation has, really grabbed this thing by the corners and seize the advantage and make it in breaking generational curses. I think that's very instrumental to what's going on. And then also, it's limitless. I mean, like, it's everyone doing it, but the fact that it doesn't stop right before like Generation Z. I think that's pretty exciting. You know, I went to a high school that wasn't quite glamorous. Let's put it that way. Um, but when I catch up with some friends from there who are in this world and who really understand it really well, it excites me. It excites me. It really motivates me, and it reminds me that nothing that I do, in this pursuit of giving, to communities that need it, it's not for nothing. You know what I mean? And that's not to put myself on any pedestal or anything like that. I wish I had more figures that directly you know were involved in my communities growing up. But not to say that that didn't happen. It just wasn't any direct uh, interaction there. But I just want to be that for the community, everything that I felt that I needed. And I've been working on some legislation over the past couple of years, rubbing elbows with, some pretty notable people in some notable places. But um, yeah, again, I'll stop rambling about that. But crypto is definitely the wave, and I'm excited about that. Do you have any final thoughts?
You make a good point that young people are getting into this, and you'd be surprised at how you could just say crypto and somebody's going to have an ear for this.
Hmm.
A little bit unlike, sadly, gold and silver. But whatever, I guess, because now I'm like, well, fine, I'll do the best of both worlds. It took me a while to get there. In fact, anyone who watches my channel will say, oh, Aaron, geez, like 6 months ago, you were saying no crypto, no crypto, no crypto. Oddly, I was saying, yeah, we need blockchain technology domains, though. I was saying we need to build our websites on blockchain. So I understood it, and
Yeah,
yet I
yeah,
was still putting it down, and it's very hypocritical. And I've
yeah,
admitted that, and I've said, "Oh, I need to rethink this." But it was good timing, all in the Lord's timing. I'll say that for sure, because once I finally said I need to look at crypto, the best possible business, if you ask me, came along because I don't wouldn't know the first thing about which coins to buy. There's so many, and
yeah,
at least I got into something that I know is in the U.S. Right? I know it's based on our regulations here. It's registered in Wyoming, which has the most lenient cryptocurrency laws, and I trust the people that told me about it. Just like the people I told about it trust me, just like I told you and you trusted me and you said, "All right, I'm going to jump in," without totally understanding it. And one of the things I say now is my new mantra is just get in and drive. It's like you're not going to understand the wow factor of this massively beautiful fast car until you just get in and drive it, turn the keys and go. And so until, understanding it to the extent that people want to understand it, it doesn't make any sense. You just got to get in and understand it by doing it. That's the best way
yeah,
to understand something.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm eternally grateful for you putting me on to all this stuff. 7K medals, with this IMC endeavor. Like, I really appreciate it because, like I said, I've always wanted, or not, I didn't necessarily want. I didn't really put much thought into what I needed growing up. Like, this going to school, you just learn the same things you learned for the same prior year, prior 12 years, and then that's it. You just go out into the world and find a job.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously, I'm a smart kid. I knew that there was more out there for me. And, I started traveling and I realized, like, even having this wonderful career where I'm able to travel and move up, lateral movement and, upward movement, whatever, it's always more, and I don't ever mean to put down jobs or anything like that at all, the traditional jobs, because, there's a lot of people who have these traditional jobs who are making a fortune with these investing opportunities, so that's pretty exciting.
Well, and another thing, just to speak on the traditional W-2 job, is that it's linear wage, and that's fine. I made a good linear wage for a long time, but then I made a really bad linear wage. So it's nice to have a backup plan. So you can do this and have your regular W-2 job. This isn't the only thing we're telling people to do. We're not telling people to leave their jobs. We're not telling
Yeah.
people, oh, that's just a joke. I mean, you do have to pay income tax on a regular job. You don't with this one. It's anonymous. They don't ask for tax ID, and there aren't even laws on how to report your earnings for cryptocurrency as it stands right now. However, there are so many important jobs. Can you imagine if everybody just up and left their W-2s right today? We'd have so many problems. We would just have a non-functioning country. Talk about anarchy. So nobody needs to leave their job to do what we're doing. It's just another method of doing something else, having a backup plan, whether it's just buying the coin and waiting on it or earning income in the meantime. So that's my final thoughts. Anything else you want to say?
No, if I add anything else, I'll just be thanking you for another 7 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm grateful for you, and I didn't say that yet. So thank you in return. Of course, you're welcome, but I just praise the Lord for people like you with ears to hear and eyes to see and a platform to speak on. I think this will be great to reach out to new people because somebody's going to see this and they're going to relate and they're going to say, wow, I'm so glad somebody said what I needed to hear. Somebody is doing what I want to do and they can help me do it. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and I definitely want to have you on periodically so that we can, spit game and then also like, just educate each other along this journey. Obviously, I want the world or my audience, my sphere, to, kind of witness that if that's pretty cool with you.
That's a very cool with me. So with that, I guess we'll say goodnight to all our folks and we'll end this here now and then I suppose in the future we'll be going live.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll go live in the future. I like going live. I figured this time, because I'm not super well versed, I was like, let's do the pre-recorded thing, and then,
Yeah,
going forward, we'll just do the.
it's a great way to start because that way when we upload this we can be live in the chat.
Yeah, exactly, and we can. I love the interaction, like with the whole Discord and people giving their feedback on, certain things that I didn't even think that people would even.
But it is a good community, it's a good group of people, very active. In fact, I get complaints that we're so active because people get a lot of
Really.
notifications and I say, well, I'll tell you how to turn them off, but we're an active community. We talk a lot, we chat a lot, we share a
Yeah.
lot.
Okay. And before I go, oh, but were you gonna add something?
Nope.
For the audience, for my peoples, friends, peoples watching, make sure you click the description box. There will be a lot of relevant information regarding this broadcast today. Um, cool links, information, membership links, anything like that. So yeah, just make sure you like, subscribe, anything like that. If this is social media, be sure to hit the interaction link and stuff like that. So love you guys. Take care, Aaron. Thank you so much. Um,
Peace. Peace
take
and
care.
love. Good
Peace and
night.
love. Bye.